there's. Okay. So I think you can all see my screen if I'm correct.
Yes.
So yes, thank you, Nevin. I'm Kayla. I work for the IRC, the International Rescue Committee. Today the focus is going to be, we'll talk a little bit about who IRC is, provide some background, obviously, in order to understand the context that we're speaking about. I will tell you a little bit more specifically about the office in San Jose, if you're local and want to get involved, and how you can get involved and support refugees. And then if you have questions on any of the topics that we've covered here, or you want to know more, we'll have an opportunity for that at the end as well. And you can type your questions in like the chat while we go along, and then obviously either we'll try to answer those at the end, or if it's something specific to that slide, we'll try to get to it then. So a quick background, who are we? Who's the International Rescue Committee? We're a local nonprofit, but we're actually an international nonprofit. We were founded at the request of Albert Einstein in 1933. He was himself a refugee in World War II and saw the dire need of people fleeing from war and persecution when he arrived to the United States. And so that is the basis of our organization, our nonprofit work. We work in over 40 countries and in 28 US cities. In the United States, the focus is very much on resettlement of refugees, providing services to individuals to rebuild their lives here, on integration and feeling, connected and part of life in the US. A quick map here. This, of course, changes, but we have our headquarters in New York. We also have advocacy headquarters in Washington, D.C., many other, of course, offices across the U.S. But you can see that we work in a lot of different places, providing services to individuals who are fleeing war and persecution. In the United States, every year, the IRC is providing services to over 38,000 refugees, asylees, and victims of human trafficking and other immigrants in the US. That's a number just in the US alone. It's probably increased, actually. I think this may be a slightly older statistic, as the programs have really grown, especially in the San Jose area in the past 3 years or so, have gotten, the needs have increased, and therefore our services have increased as well. So let's start from the basics. Who are refugees? Refugees are individuals who are outside of his or her home country and are unable or unwilling to return due to a well-founded fear of persecution. So that's kind of a legal way of stating these are people who are fleeing war, fleeing unsafe situations in their home country where their home country can no longer provide protection for them, or they're not willing to provide protection for them, many, many different circumstances. Individuals need to meet the qualification that they're being persecuted either on their race, national origin, membership in a particular social group, their political opinion, their religious beliefs. So they have to meet a legal standard of the definition of a refugee, as established by a convention set forth in 1951. So this is all under a legal convention. And refugees are slightly different. I think I'll probably get into it on another slide, but I get this question a lot. What's the difference between refugees and asylees, asylum seekers? In essence, once a asylee has received their status, they've been confirmed as someone who is, legally able to receive asylum, they are no different from refugees. It's kind of the process that's different. Refugees, the process is typically that they're fleeing their home country, usually to a neighboring country, and from there attempting to, register either with the government or the UN High Commission on Refugees, to establish their status as refugees so that they can get protections in the country where that they fled to. Um, and a very, very small percentage of refugees actually will be resettled in a third country. Typically, refugees, the goal is that conditions in their home country resolve such that they're able to return to their home country safely. That would be the first best outcome. The second best outcome is that where they currently are living, where they fled to, that they're able to be safe and taken care of there. If that's not possible, and after waiting very long periods of time, some individuals are able to resettle in third countries like the United States or other countries who've agreed to resettle refugees. Asylum asylees or asylum seekers are a bit different in that they're not fleeing to maybe a neighboring country, or maybe that they are, but they're presenting themselves at a border or at the country, inside the country, where they're trying to seek safety, seek shelter. And that means that while they're in process, essentially their refugee status isn't confirmed yet. So they need to go through processes in order to confirm that they are eligible to receive that asylum status, that refugee status. And the process is just a bit different in that they're not waiting in another country to be resettled in the US. They're presenting at the border or inside of the US or another country and requesting asylum status there once they're already there. There's no way to request for asylum seekers. There's no way to request like a visa to come to the US for the purposes of requesting asylum. Really, the process is only that you have to show up. You have to be here to request that. So those are the main differences. Once someone has asylum status or once someone has refugee status, they're really no different. They have exactly the same status in terms of a legal status, but the process is very different for what it may look like and they're seeking that particular status. So as I mentioned, only less than 1% of the world's refugees are actually given the opportunity to resettle in a new country. There are many countries, not just the US, who accept refugees, and they're listed over there in that green bar. But even given that, it typically falls upon the burden of neighboring countries to provide shelter and safety for refugees who have fled to their country or fled from their home countries. And so that's something which I think I mentioned on another slide, but is kind of a fact that's always stuck with me, that the burden of caring for the world's refugees and ensuring that we bear responsibility for caring for those who are fleeing violence and persecution shouldn't just fall on countries who are nearby, as they often also are lower income countries and can't afford to provide as much of a safety net for those individuals who fled to their country. Yeah, so here are just some quick facts that stuck with me. High income countries host just 24% of the world's refugees. Most refugees are living either temporarily or probably permanently in neighboring countries where they've fled to from their home country. So for instance, I believe Jordan actually hosts I think over 2 million refugees who fled from neighboring countries, neighboring areas. And that's far higher than many high-income countries. Seeking asylum is a universal human right. So that's confirmed as a human right. I think that's something which is important. And the reason why I'm talking about a lot of this is because I think a lot of the work that we can do uh, to provide safety in our country for refugees is to spread good information, to know good information, and to spread that word and tell people, real facts about refugees, about asylum seekers, about immigrants in our country, and to ensure that fear mongering isn't something which takes over our communities. And so it's a good reminder to know that seeking asylum is a universal human right. People arriving at the border requesting asylum are not doing anything illegal. That is something which is protected by Universal Convention on Human Rights, that's protected by our own laws in the US, that people are allowed to seek asylum. Seeking asylum isn't illegal immigration. 52% of the world's refugees were displaced from just 3 countries when looking at the end of 2022. So from Syria, Afghanistan, and Ukraine, which is kind of a staggering fact. At the IRC in San Jose, so locally, we're on Bascom, we were opened in 1979 to serve Vietnamese refugees. We provide services with essentially basic needs all the way up to citizenship, naturalization, green cards, family petitions. So it's kind of a whole service when you arrive here till, many years possibly after your arrival. This involves, we have a huge focus on self-sufficiency. We don't just want to provide services to people and then not teach them, not give them the tools to be able to be successful here in the US without the resources of a nonprofit or another agency. So we provide, of course, when people first get here, a lot more services within those first 3 months. So when someone is resettled with the IRC as a refugee, they would actually be, picked up from the airport. We would ensure that they have a furnished home to go to. We're providing those early job opportunities, so jobs to be self-sufficient, English language classes. Later down the line, we're looking at more career opportunities, career-focused jobs, so maybe certifications or education opportunities or business loans. And we're also recently, our programs with youth have really expanded to, you can see here in this picture, one of the things that we did, which was, I think, really interesting for young people, was to have a day where they, well, it was more than just a day, it was a whole workshop, but at the end of the workshop, they were taking pictures of what they dreamed that they could be, and able to, and then given, of course, like paths and how that they would be able to achieve that. And I think it's more than just, rebuilding your life here in the US, more than just getting those basic foundational needs, but also being able to look farther into the future, which is something that many refugees may not have been able to do for a long time, just being on the path to try to get here, to be to safety. And then now being able to look more forward to, what's next, what things in life, can you dream of. Our immigration services, that's the program that I work for. Our immigration services are, maybe I'll flip forward here. We deal with family reunification, so helping individuals who've been separated from their families to petition for them to come live here in the US. That might be through various different types of applications. We help with refugees and asylees applying for their green cards, naturalization and citizenship, which is sort of the end goal for many in their immigration process. So we actually hold free citizenship workshops where we will actually fill out the application for naturalization with that individual, make sure that it's all correct, legally review their forms, give them a whole breakdown on how to submit their applications to the government so that they're successful. And we do that all for free. It's easy for people to sign up. Our immigration site has a booking website that we use. So we try to make it as easy as possible for people to access that. And our immigration program is open entirely to the public. So of course, IRC and our mission as an organization, it started from serving refugees, serving asylees, but we also serve victims of human trafficking. We serve immigrants who are looking for assistance with their green card, with their citizenship and naturalization, not just refugees and asylees who are, looking for that. So it's something which is totally open to the public, and is accessible on I think almost every other week basis, if not every week basis. We do have these free workshops. Many are virtual, some are in person now, so that's all accessible again on our website. We also do Know Your Rights presentations. This is something really key that I think everyone can take away something from. And it's something that I, actually carry around with me. We provide information on individuals' constitutional rights, what to do if they were to have contact with police or with ICE. How would they be able to protect themselves? What rights do they have? When should they consider exercising those rights? Practical concerns. So these are really great presentations for any newcomer and for anyone who is unsure of their status or concerned about their immigration status and wants to know how can they protect themselves if they were to have any negative contact with police or with ICE. Those are every Thursday at 4. During those presentations, we do also talk about citizenship. It's sort of a dual presentation. I kind of feel that that's important because many people may get to the point of citizenship, and there can be problems that they've experienced along the way, maybe with police, maybe with ICE, and that can cause issues for their citizenship application. And it's better to know, I think, quite early, what is the process for citizenship? If that's your goal, what things do you need to be aware of? Even if you're several years away from that, knowing what the process looks like, what the requirements are, can help you to make sure that you're ensuring in the future your ability to potentially access that immigration process. So this is really the bulk of what I want to go over with you today is how can you help? How can you get involved with the work that IRC is doing, but also with refugees in your community? I think a huge thing, and I mentioned this, is advocating. So spreading the word about the true facts about refugees, spreading good information and advocating for refugees being a part of our community is so important. And also connecting them to resources that are there in the community. So a lot of people don't know that we do, free citizenship workshops, don't know that we do Know Your Rights presentations, and that those are totally open to the public and are happening, fairly frequently. And I think it's important that when we can connect individuals with free resources in their community. That's a large part of what I do as well. When I talk to people, it's important to know what else is happening in the community, what resources are there that they could access, rather than just saying, okay, here's help with this really specific thing that you're looking help for. Looking at a whole person, a whole family, what things, what resources could they need? That's something I find to be really important. So, connecting people that who are in need with their community is so important in being able to protect them and make sure that they are accessing rights that they, may have, or immigration options that they may have. We, of course, accept donations. We accept in-kind donations, obviously financial donations, but in-kind donations can be things like if you have an old bed frame and you want to donate that, that's something that IRC, could really use because, as I mentioned, we're setting up fully furnished homes for individuals who are arriving here, and we couldn't do that without the support of the community. Many items we do accept used and many items we don't. So for instance, car seats, mattresses, those are not items that we accept used. Those have to be new. A full list is here on our website. I'll see if I can share that screen. Um, let me see. Yeah, here we go. So you can see here on our website the process of donations, dropping off items, and what would be most helpful to us, so kind of procedures. Obviously, we can't accept items that are not in usable condition, that are broken or not clean, of course. And there's a list of items that we need the most. So yeah, as you can see, kitchen appliances, baby and children items, huge, especially where those items are one-time use. Cleaning, of course, and as I mentioned, furniture, bed frames, anything. If you're spring cleaning, if you're looking at, perhaps getting new furniture and you don't know what to do with your old furniture, definitely consider donating that to the IRC. That's something which is going to go directly to a family in need, someone who is arriving here as refugees, and that's can make a big impact for them and for our organization being able to support them. Gift cards are always so helpful. I know that can seem really basic or impersonal, but it is actually very helpful for people. Home goods, if you have any new bedding, comforters, sheets, bicycles. This is also a big one. Many people, when they're first here, they don't have a car, so they're getting around by public transit. But also bicycles are huge and really helpful. Laptops, cell phones. If there's any of those that you want to donate, I did just want to pull up this page because I knew it would remind me of some things to point out that I even forget are eligible to be donated. We do also have an Amazon wish list if you want to shop from there. I can type this link into the chat, and we'll also send out this presentation to you, but I'll just type that in there as well. You want to click that? Oh, it looks like Nevin already did that. Thank you. Okay, I'll go back to my screen here. You can also intern or volunteer. Interns have to be students or recent graduates, but volunteers can be don't need to be students, don't need to be recent graduates. And we need volunteers in pretty much all of our programs. I can speak specifically for the immigration program. The greatest need is in individuals who want to come into our office to help with casework. We look for volunteers who are willing to dedicate a set period of time. Of course, we can't require it as volunteers, but this is what we ask for because in many of the programs, and especially in immigration, we put a lot of time and energy into training in order to do many of the jobs that we need help with, filing and calling clients, processing paperwork to be shipped to USCIS. These things do require extensive training so that you feel comfortable using our systems and knowing exactly what processes you need to go through in order to complete a task. And as a result, we do ask for ideally a minimum of 4 months of volunteering and a set number of hours within that time frame. So if that's every Monday for, 6 hours. That's something which can be so helpful, to know that we have people that we can rely on. Really, we couldn't do it without volunteers. There's just no way. There's so much work to stay on top of. Our interns and volunteers are critical to the work that we do. In immigration, volunteering would look very much like processing paperwork, working in our office to support our caseworkers directly. But it could also be assisting at citizenship workshops where you would go through a training with myself and our legal representative to be able to assist people with completing the paperwork. You wouldn't be the last person or the first person to connect with the client themselves. They would, of course, go through a legal review, but often it's very helpful for us to have someone kind of collecting all the paperwork, filling out an intake with that individual, and knowing what to point out as, potentially a red flag, and alerting our staff to that so that we can, provide that person with as efficient and quick of service as we're able to do so that we can meet the needs of as many people who attend our workshops. So there's lots of different opportunities. Many other programs have other ways that you can volunteer, that you could get involved. You can be a mentor for an individual, or you can, I believe it's called community sponsorship. If you have a group of individuals who want to sponsor a newly arrived family, that's a pretty high commitment. There's a financial component to that. So fundraising, a certain amount of money for that family, making sure that they have basic needs and have assistance with learning how to do basic things in the US, get around on public transit, shop at the grocery store. Community sponsors also help to ensure that the family, when they arrive, have food stocked at their home. So there's a lot of different roles that volunteers can take on, and can depend on your interests and your background. The application to volunteer is on our website. You can choose the programs that you're most interested in, learn a little bit about each of those programs on that website itself. I'll click there as well, just so I can get that link for you guys. Yeah. So you would submit an online application. Right here it says there's currently no volunteer opportunities. We're working on our website. This is not accurate. We do have many volunteer opportunities. Filling out an online application is the best place to start. From there, the application would be reviewed by our volunteer coordinator, and then if appropriate, it would be passed on to one of the department leads, and they would interview you and talk about, what might you be involved in, and see if there's a good fit. And again, like I would say, the most important thing to keep in mind with the volunteering is that we do look for commitment that's consistent, given that there is so much training that goes into many of those volunteer positions. Other ways that the community can help is, like I say, spread the word, follow us. We've got Instagram, Facebook pages, all of that. It's a good place to get facts, get information, but also, as I mentioned, to keep involved with what's going on, what is happening in the community that people may be able to benefit from. So we often would post events that we have on there. So you can follow us on, I think it's, yes. Oh, could you share the volunteer link? Yes, I did share that in the chat. Let me know if you can't see that. And I'll try to share that here. There we go. So yes, you can follow us. You can spread the word about the work that we're doing, encourage your friends, family members, anyone in your community that you see that would possibly want to donate something to the IRC. Encourage them to do so, to get in touch with us. we'd be so grateful for that. Employing refugees. This is huge. We work closely with employers to try to build connections so that our clients have access to jobs that can help sustain them when they first arrive. But if you yourself have job opportunities, or you know of job opportunities, or your company might be interested, talk to your managers, talk to people about potentially employing refugees, and this can be so critical in making making the difference in someone getting settled here, having access to the ability to sustain themselves beyond the initial period of when they arrive, where IRC is helping them quite intensively. After that 3-month period, there is still support from IRC, but it becomes far more limited, just due to our funding restrictions from the government. And we want to ensure that people have jobs that they are able to sustain their family on, which is very difficult in the Bay Area, of course. And in Northern California, this is huge. We all know this. One of the biggest hurdles, probably the biggest hurdle for families being resettled here, is the cost of housing. It is so difficult for individuals and families to be able to find affordable housing, and especially when they have just arrived here, language skills, they may be learning English still, which can impede job opportunities. So if you have leads on affordable housing, that can be so beneficial. We have worked with people that have Airbnbs, where they're part of Airbnb's program that IRC and Airbnb work on together, to provide housing for refugees who've just arrived here. So if you know someone who has an Airbnb or an ADU and they would be willing to support a family when they first arrive, support an individual who's just arrived here as a refugee with housing, that can make all the difference, and help someone to get off on the right foot, because as we know, this is such a huge problem in the Bay Area and in Northern California generally. And when I talk about advocating and spreading the word, I think it's very important to remind our friends and neighbors and families that refugees are mothers, daughters, fathers, sons who have escaped really unimaginable violence. They are in huge need of safe, peaceful, secure homes. And in the US, providing refugees that sanctuary, providing vulnerable people sanctuary, is something that we can be so proud of. Our refugee policies in the US, we take on some of the most refugees of all of the resettlement countries, or people that accept refugees. We should be so proud of that. And we can also know that refugees contribute back to our communities. It's not simply us, providing sanctuary to vulnerable people. Research actually shows that refugees contribute more to the US economy than they consume in public benefits, in social services. They start businesses at higher rates than native-born counterparts. They contribute to our communities, both economically, socially, and many, many ways. They contribute to our country. And I think that's something really important to remember, to talk about, to focus on when we think of refugees, and to think about how we can help them to be self-sufficient, such that they're able to start their businesses, they're able to support themselves and their families, which is the ultimate. So I'll pause here. I hope that there are questions, because I do want to get into any specifics that you may have questions on, or if there was any of the things I mentioned about how you could get involved that you want to get more into. Yeah, so I mentioned, it says current opportunities are not available. That's not accurate. the way that our website works is the volunteer coordinator needs to go in and list out every volunteer opportunity on there for it to be available, and it always has an expiration date. If they don't extend the expiration date, it disappears. So I apologize for that. It's not accurate. If you click on the online application form, so if you scroll down, it says, what's the process? And it does say, I believe in the second step, let me just pull it up. Yeah, second step, submit an online application form. It's bolded in black. That is where you can submit the online application. Okay, just reading another question here. Are you planning on adding information in different languages on your website? So language is often the first obstacle. Yeah, so our website actually was really initially focused on, I think it was sort of focused on donors. I think it was kind of an external site, so not looking towards our internal stakeholders, our internal clients. But that's really changed, and it's something that I've advocated for a lot. I know that it's not true that people who are our clients aren't going to the website. It's definitely the case. So they've updated some of the language on there to essentially give people information about how they can even, get started with IRC if they're looking for accessing some of our services. Refugees, of course, would be linked up to the IRC before they would even arrive. But for other individuals who want to access IRC services like immigration services, I think the website is a number one place that we should focus on. We do have an immigration and citizenship website that I maintain with information about all of our services, and I feel that each of the programs should probably have that. It's not made very easily visible on the website. This is kind of part of the complicated things of belonging to a very large international organization. What we do locally can sometimes be difficult to find on the website, and especially when we're looking at, potentially a client facing, which was not, I think, the initial thought when they were working on the website. So there's things that need to be changed. Language is a huge one. On our booking website, we've tried to, where we know particular services are being accessed by one language group, to translate that, but it's not perfect. It's something we do need to work on, especially on the website, to make that more accessible. If what they're aiming for now is, and I hope it is, to
Thank you, Kayla.
client facing.
Thank you, Kayla. Yes, I had similar question about language, but thank you. And also, I am sure people are directed by other organizations to your organization, like we do in our libraries, that's sending people to you if we cannot provide the information they need. And so let's say if they find you, do you provide these services in different languages? If someone cannot speak English, how do you connect with them?
Yes. So great question. There's a couple of things. If someone is coming to the IRC and they, for instance, with the immigration program, if someone wants to contact me directly, they can write a message in whichever language. If I don't have the ability to respond, I'm going to find a colleague who does. If we do not have someone that on staff who speaks that language, we're going to find an interpreter or someone who can help us to at least figure out, first of all, if this is an inquiry that we can assist with. If it's something that we can assist with and the only barrier is language, then we would help the person to get set up for a consultation using an interpreter. And then we can go through the process where either we are providing an interpreter or they have an interpreter that they're bringing from a family member or the community. In line with a lot of our focus on self-sufficiency, we do ask that where possible, individuals at least coming through the immigration program are bringing an interpreter, either again from their family or from their community if they can. There's sort of two reasons for that. In the immigration program, people are signing documents when they are interpreters. and they'll likely be going through the process with that person, potentially even to their interview. If it's a community member or a family member, that's something that can be offered to them, where they don't have to pay for it. And IRC will not typically attend an interview with someone as their legal representative unless there's reasons why, and then that's sort of an additional service. Our other programs, so immigration is kind of an interesting one because we are dealing a lot with specifically paperwork, dealing with legal immigration services. Our other programs, some are required to provide interpreters. So our refugee resettlement, when you're first arriving here, we would be required to have an interpreter for them if their caseworker didn't speak the language that the individual or family spoke.
Thank you.
Yeah. Couldn't remember if I forgot another part of your question there, but yeah, I hope that
Oh,
answers.
that's okay. You covered everything. Yeah. I think we have similar questions also in the Q&A box. I was going to ask you, is there a age limit for volunteers? Do you accept adults, or what's the age?
Yeah, so someone has to be at least 18 to volunteer.
Mhm.
And they have to go through a background check.
Mhm.
And so the references on the volunteer form, can they be personal? Yes, those can be personal references on the volunteer form. They don't need to be professional references. And yeah, just looking at the second question here, I was in the wrong tab. Can high school students volunteer on the weekends or for a few hours after school? So of course you have to meet the age requirement. But there, for instance, with our, I believe with our donations, I know we've had, were they high school students? I'll need to double check, but for instance, like helping to, move any kind of, furniture for a family. I thought that there may have been opportunities, but it's something I think would need to be discussed with the volunteer coordinator. And they would have to fill out a volunteer application in any case. So yeah.
Thank you. And did you answer the other question in Q&A box or not yet?
Question. Yeah. So can references be personal references? Yes, they can be personal references on the volunteer application. They don't have to be professional ones.
Okay. And another question is about donation locations. So how we can make an appointment for drop off donations or
Yeah.
in-kind donations.
Yes. So let me go back. There is, of course, a point person, but I just want to pull up the page. It's changed as we've grown a little bit, and I want to make sure I give the exact right answer. 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so they do require an appointment, and they can, I think, do pickup, but it's probably, I think that's less common, but they can do pickup like for bigger items where you're not able to move it. So in that case, like say a bed frame or something like that. But ideally, at our particular offices or storage facilities, they're going to want you to have an appointment so they can tell you exactly where to go and when, and make sure that they're there. And I think it's at the bottom of this. Yeah, let me give in the chat the email address for the individual who can organize that. There's two. If you have items to donate, you can email them to make an appointment. Let me just get that for you guys in the chat.
Thank you. That would be great. Again, we all have those links in the chat. You can open them and review them later.
Yes.
Is that the email address at the bottom of that page? Donate San Jose or something else?
Yes, that's probably the best one because staff can change, but that email will always be checked by staff who are the donors. So I'm just typing it in. Yeah, donatesj@rescue.org.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, we are here, and if you have any other questions, please type them in the Q&A box or in the chat. Thank you, Kayla.
Of course.
These are really good things that I learned, and also I am planning to share with other people. Probably you all know that group, Facebook group, Buy Nothing. Sometimes we see items that nobody is interested in, big items or really good items, but people have them already. So I'm planning to post this email address to that group in my local Buy Nothing group. So it might be something they might consider
Yeah,
donating.
it's great. I think IRC is kind of one of these funny organizations that like we've been here since 1979, but many people don't know that we're here because or they think that we kind of only work with refugees and we're quite small. But I've similarly been spreading the word, talking to people at our farmers markets, letting them know that we are here, what we do. And I've had people come back and tell me, yeah, like, I had someone from the IRC come pick up a bed frame, and that was actually really helpful to me too, to have them come get that. And, and it's something that helps directly our community. We work in San Jose, Santa Clara County, so you know that the people that you're supporting, actually are your neighbors and live here.
Yes, is this in-kind donation something new after we started having more refugees in the US, or it's been around for a long time?
It's been around.
Okay.
It's been around since I've been at the IRC and definitely before that. So I've been at the IRC about 7, 8 years, and it's something we've done for a very long time. There's even particular types of programs where IRC will match the donations. So we get in-kind donations, and then we have to the government will actually match that. And so it's a really great program that obviously incentivizes IRC to meet our match requirements through in-kind or other donations, donations of time through volunteering, so that we're able to get the match from the government in funds to, basically double the efforts.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so it is really great. But again, I think it's true that many people don't know that we do this. We've done a lot of outreach efforts with immigration programming and other programming through funding sources that came through from the county in California. But I think the donations and other things have remained somewhat quieter in the South Bay. Our Oakland office is our headquarters, and a lot of the donations folks are there. And I think it's important for us to do a better job of making sure all over the Bay Area and probably elsewhere that people know that we do this.
So in the Bay Area, there's Oakland and San Jose.
Oakland, San Jose, and then depending on what you consider the Bay Area, there's Sacramento and Turlock. But
Oh, okay.
in the strict Bay Area, there's Oakland and San Jose.
Okay, okay. And also you mentioned Airbnb and ADUs that people can donate those for a limited of time, right? How about rooms in your house? Let's say you have 5-bedroom house, but you live there with your husband and alone.
Yeah.
How about room? Do you need also rooms?
Yes, absolutely. Let me copy in this airbnb.org /refugees here into the chat, because that's where you can kind of learn more about this program. It's organized between Airbnb, and my understanding is that it was primarily through IRC. I thought it was something they worked on together. I don't see that on this website, but it's something, yeah. So at the bottom, actually, there's 2 other organizations, IRC, Highest, and CWS, that work on this particular program together. So it's great. You can offer a place to stay. Let me see. It doesn't say that it has to be something like just a ADU. I think it can be. And I know prior to this program as well, we did have where we had to have, of course, background checks, that whole thing, but where you could actually host someone, in your home.
So is it, does it have to be through Airbnb refugee thing, or can we just do it with the International Rescue Committee directly?
I'm sure that you could go directly just through the IRC, and that would be something the Donate SJ is also the donations team and the volunteer team are one team, even if they're different people, but the donation
Mhm.
volunteer team can both be reached probably through that email. There is another specific email for the volunteer team, and that's essentially what it would fall under is kind of volunteering in a way, which is a bit strange of a way to phrase it, but volunteer SJ at rescue.org. If you wanted to inquire directly in, like, I have a place you could either, there's a couple of ways that we've seen it done where individuals are offering, free accommodation for someone that's arrived here maybe within a set period of time, or someone who's saying, I have a place that I rent out, or a room in my home that I rent out, and I'm willing to rent it out at like a discounted rate for a
Mhm.
refugee. So there's different things that they can do. And I believe it's something that can be organized directly with IRC. If not, they would let you know after connecting with the volunteer SJ at rescue.org. But it's a huge need. So really, I think they'd be quite open to creative solutions.
Yes, great. Thank you, Kayla.
Mhm.
This is really good information. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Um, hope to see you in another program. If we don't have any other questions, let me check Q&A and chat. Kayla, do you have anything to say before we say goodbye?
No, just thank you for being here and being open to learning about our services, learning about our organization, learning about refugees, and supporting them. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And again, please do not forget to fill out our survey at the end of this webinar. And have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.